Imagine a cave person. Every day they look for sustenance to support themselves and their family. If they ever find any excess, they store it because they don't know when they will next find food. Now imagine this same cave person stumbles upon a cave full of food, a magical cave. Unsure if this food will remain the next day, they eat what they need and they store the rest. They come back the next day to check if the food is still there, and sure enough, it is. So they eat what they can and they store what they can carry, even though the food they stored the previous day has not yet been consumed. They do the same thing the next day, and the next, and the next, and the next. What's happening to this cave person? They are eating the same amount of food that previously lasted them days, every day. They gain weight. Obesity, high cholesterol, the works. And what's happening to the growing pile of food that the cave person keeps adding to every day? It goes to waste. It rots. Now, I'm going to show you pictures from a world-renowned study on overconsumption. Some of you may have seen these before. So what do all these cave people, and the Neanderthal from my analogy, show us about overconsumption? In the case of the cave person, they kept storing so much food because they didn't know when they would next find it. Similarly, when the lockdown began, people were afraid that they wouldn't be able to leave their houses to go to the supermarket to buy their necessities. Or suppliers wouldn't be able to replenish the stock when supermarkets ran out. So they stacked up on necessities. That is toilet paper. Lapse of judgment of necessities aside, why did so many people flock and fight to fill their carts with rolls and rolls of toilet paper? If you ask anyone why, they might respond with, in case I can't find any later. Fair enough. With the uncertainty of the lockdown, uncertainty and the fear of a worldwide lockdown, it makes sense not to know whether you will have your needs met the next day. Now imagine us, consumers, as the cave person, and our post-industrial markets as the magical cave of food. We have found a lot more food than we actually need. But because we have it, we convince ourselves that we need more. In other words, overconsumption is largely a manifestation of easy accessibility. We overproduce like there's no end to our resources. And it is hurting our wallets, our health, our environment. But it is also widening the gap between the people who have way too much and the people who have barely anything. But there is a limit to how many resources we have and how fast we can use them. Still, we keep going down this spiral of more, more, more. Let's start by discussing product quality. In the good old days, we used to get products that would last us a long time. Take this box, for example. We used this tin box at home to store spices. When I asked my mother, "Ma, how long have we had this box?" She responded, I am not joking, 26 years. We have had this box for 26 years. This bottle, on the other hand, 3 weeks of use, and it's so dented that it doesn't stand on its own. What happened? Well, one possibility is that firms realize they can make a lot more money by selling a lot of bad quality products rather than a few good quality products. This is known as planned obsolescence. Planned obsolescence is when firms intentionally design their products to last a shorter amount of time or to serve limited purposes so that consumers are forced to go out and buy more goods. In other words, these products are simply being designed for the dump. This is especially a problem with electronic waste. Not only do firms make products so that they last a shorter time, they also make it a lot cheaper and a lot easier to replace the whole product rather than just the non-functioning part. This, along with software updates that don't function with older products, hardware failures, and of course the brand new innovative technology that you absolutely must have immediately, all contribute to the growing pile of electronic waste in our houses and our landfills. Be honest, how many of you have a dedicated drawer to phones, tablets, computers that you no longer use because they broke or you replaced them, not to mention that horrific tangle of wires that no one for the life of them can remember the purpose of? Yeah. So what are some things you can do with this drawer of electronic shame? One, you can sell. There are so many secondhand stores that are willing to buy your old electronics and resell them. Two, donate. One man's trash is another man's treasure. To those of us who can afford to live by trends and societal pressures, that iPhone 11 is so 2 years ago, especially compared to the iPhone 11 Pro, the iPhone 11 Pro Max, the iPhone SE, the iPhone 12 mini, the iPhone 12. You get the point. 3, recycle. This one is obvious, but be careful because a lot of recycling plants claim to recycle electronics, but simply take the parts that they can reuse or resell and burn the rest. This is highly counterproductive, especially considering how many toxins are packed into each electronic. So do your research and find the right plant to responsibly recycle your old electronics. Now, overconsumption does not just target electronic waste. It also largely targets the food market. Studies show that we are programmed to overeat in the winters. 2 reasons for this. One is that fat provides insulation to keep us warm, and 2 is that fat provides long-term energy storage in case there is no food available for the next few days, because of course it is difficult to farm in the winters. However, post-industrialism, our agriculture markets are more than capable of providing food year-round, eliminating the need for us to store food and energy in the form of fat. But surely there's some mechanism to stop us from overeating. Yeah, we have several. One example is the hormone leptin. Leptin is a satiety hormone, which means it inhibits your appetite. What's interesting about leptin is it's produced by adipose or fat storage tissue, which means that the more you eat, the more adipose you store, the more leptin is released, the more your appetite is inhibited, theoretically. However, according to researcher Andrew Higginson, food is no longer just sustenance. Food is comfort. Food is art. Food is luxury. And that's okay. The problem, however, lies in the addictive substances like sugars and oils and the tasty spices that we pack into our food, which makes the temptation to eat a lot stronger and overpowers any signals that our body sends us telling us that we are full. In addition to us being tempted by spices and sugars and oils, we are also tempted by advertising. Junk food tends to be advertised a lot more than healthy food. In fact, according to the NCBI, children are estimated to watch 20,000 to 40,000 advertisements of junk food per year. That's more than 360,000 advertisements before they graduate high school. No wonder childhood obesity rates have nearly doubled in the past few years. So what's the takeaway from this? Advertising is evil. Firms are all to blame for overconsumption. Major changes in the hands of major corporations. No. Although this may be true to a small extent, it is so easy to forget that marketers are simply people trying to make their living. And a lot of firms are just catering to the systems by which our economies work. So what do these systems look like? How do they manifest? And why is it a problem? This is the linear economy model, also known as the take, make, and waste model. How does it work? We start by taking from our bottomless pool of resources. We make products, we distribute them to households, and once they've been consumed, we waste them and throw them into our bottomless landfills. 2 glaring problems with this model. 1, we do not have bottomless resources. And 2, we do not have bottomless landfills. And they most certainly are not out of sight, out of mind. So how can we change our economic models to facilitate better consumption, less consumption, to allow firms to produce fewer good products and rather than a lot of bad products? Allow me to introduce you to the circular economy model, which I will be taking you through for the next 15 minutes. I'm kidding. Let's make it simpler. Even simpler. Here are the 3 key takeaways from the circular economy. 1, distribution, also known as sharing. We need to have better systems in place for how we can access our goods. When I say sharing, I don't mean I'll borrow my neighbor's bike and my neighbor will borrow my car, although that's not a bad idea. I mean a larger scale. I mean rental companies and leasing. Normalize renting and leasing over ownership. Let's go back to the example of cars. If someone owns a car, they take it for granted. They may ride it once or twice a day, or they may create needs for them to drive. They may create long drives, even though they don't actually want to. So they're driving a lot more than they want to. When someone rents a car, they have to pay by the mile, or whichever other system is used. So they are mindful of every mile they drive. they drive less. Furthermore, with firms, in our current ownership-focused system, firms only make more money when another consumer buys another car. So they are naturally incentivized to produce a lot of mediocre cars. However, with rental systems, they are incentivized to make the cars last longer because they earn more money that way. They earn more money the more the car lasts. And the key is the firm owns the car. So when they get the car back, they can get the most of it if it's made well to begin with. Next is prolonged usage of your products. Make your products last as long as you can. Maintain them, repair them, don't replace them. Don't buy that sweater if you're just going to wear it once and forget about it, unless, of course, afterwards you lend it to someone else, or sell it to someone else, perhaps a secondhand store, or donate it. Prolong the use of your products. And third, of course, is recycling. We should only be throwing away what absolutely cannot be reused, refurbished, upcycled, or recycled. Recycle either chemically or using with biodegradable products. However, I'm going to add 2 more steps to the circular economy at the beginning. 1, smart design. And 2, responsible buying. When I say smart design, I mean that firms have a responsibility to design their products so that we can prolong their use, better quality, so that we can take the useful parts and reuse them, so that we can take them apart and refurbish them, upcycle them, and when we are done using them, so that we can recycle them. Smart design is a key in all of the steps that I have mentioned in the circular economy. There's also another technique called cascading. You can take a piece of wood and you can burn it. Or you can take that piece of wood and use it to build a house. When the house is no longer being used, use that wood for a table. And when the wood cannot be used for any other products, burn it, firewood. You have now more than tripled the lifespan of this wood and its use. Next is responsible buying. And this applies to us as consumers. We have the option to find and buy the products that last us the longest, that we can recycle, that we can refurbish, that we can upcycle, that we can reuse. Make sure you are doing your research and buying the products that you can to use them the longest. If you're buying a phone, buy something where you can change the battery yourself, instead of having to send it to a shop and get it repaired or completely replaced for $500. So once again, when we are trying to tackle our overconsumption problem, number 1, when eating, eat consciously. Listen to the signals your body is sending you. When you are full, stop eating. And take smaller portions so that when you do stop eating, you're not wasting much food. 2, buy consciously. We have evolved to have more needs and wants. We have luxuries, and that's okay. But know what you want. Don't want more than you want. By that, I mean be aware when you are being targeted by marketing. Don't fall for that buy 2, get 2 free sale if you don't actually need 4. And 3, stop this attitude of shaming old products. If someone is using an older model of a device, don't shame it. They've been able to maintain it past all these software updates that tried to make it obsolete. If we can stop the societal pressures that cause people to buy that latest model, we can reduce our overconsumption by a great deal. Next, spread awareness about tactics like planned obsolescence and design for the dump mentalities of firms so that others know that they can consume more consciously. Overall, the responsibility to overcome overconsumption should fall in the hands of consumers and firms, not our landfills. Thank you.